Hello, listeners. This is Kat, and welcome back to Put Your Hands Up Podfics. This will be the continuation of the Roundabout Way of Fate. This will be Part 4, Chapter 2, the second half. Helplessness is a feeling that Izuku soon grows to hate. Inko panics when she finds out what happened later that day. She puts ice packs on Izuku and Kachan's bruises and then calls the school. Surprisingly, Kachan doesn't get in trouble for fighting again. The administration is extremely apologetic, although a part of Izuku wonders if they would have been as concerned if he were another student. He knows most of the teachers tend to like him since he's polite, doesn't cause trouble, and helps prevent kids from going home with whatever minor injuries they acquired that day. Furuya and Akamine get a harsh scolding and are suspended for a couple of days. Still, the incident remains fresh in his mind for the next couple of weeks. He stays a bit closer to Kachan than before, and even Tsubasa and Inaba become more protective. He still heals people once his bruises are gone, but he learns to limit himself and say no to smaller injuries like paper cuts. Most people are understanding, but Kachan is quick to chase off anyone who's persistent. He almost looks like he enjoys it, too. But Izuku tries not to pay too much attention to that. Things are fine for a while. They all start to relax more as time passes. Kachan and Izuku still basically spend all day together, but they're not as attached to the hip anymore. Like now, for example. They're back in the forest once more with Tsubasa and Inaba. Kachan has just turned 7 and decides that he wants to claim the entire forest as his territory. They usually only go a little ways in, but Kachan knocks down the perimeter fence with an explosion and leads the way. So now they're exploring deeper than they've ever gone before. Izuku's trailing a few feet behind the others, glancing around at the scenery. He's a little nervous, if only because they might get in trouble if they're caught, but he finds the trees and plants to be very pretty. It's the beginning of May, so everything is in full bloom. "Hey, check out that river!" Kachan shouts, pointing at a shallow creek with a fallen log over it. "Let's go cross it!" "Yeah!" Tsubasa and Inaba cheer. Izuku just smiles and trails after them. The log is a bit slippery from moss, but is large enough for the boys to cross confidently. Kachan's high-pitched voice echoes amongst the trees as he chants some song he made up for his future hero agency, fearlessly leading his posse across the log. It's amusing, until the blonde's foot slips and he falls off the log into the river. "Kachan!" Izuku cries, already scrambling off the log and making his way down the riverbank. "Hey, are you okay, man?" Inaba calls down. As soon as Izuku steps into the river, Kachan reemerges from the water and shakes his head. He looks unharmed, but Izuku still worries. "Are you all right, Kachan?" he asks, finally reaching him. "Don't worry, Midoriya-kun," Tsubasa says. "You know Bakugo-kun, he's tough." Izuku grabs onto Kachan's hands and starts feeling for injuries with his quirk, but the blonde rolls his eyes and pushes him away. I'm fine, relax," he complains. "You think I'm going to get hurt from falling into a little river?" The greenette pouts. "You could have hit your head." "Come on, guys, get back up here," Inaba says. "Sure." As Kachan starts back towards the shore, clearly intending to cross the log once more, Izuku pauses, tilting his head. He heard something just then. It sounded like a meow, but what would a cat be doing in the middle of a forest? He's about to brush it off, but then he hears it again. This time, he looks around and pinpoints the source of the sound. "Zuku, come on, hurry up!" Kachan calls out. He's already climbing back up the shore. The cat meows again. It sounds distressed. Izuku's heart clenches, and he knows he has to do something about it. So, he turns away from Kachan and begins climbing up the opposite shore. "Hey, where are you going?" his friend questions. "Zuku, hey, stop, wait up!" He starts wading back through the river, but Izuku doesn't wait for him. He's already at the top of the slope. "Come back here!" "I heard something," Izuku replies. "I want to check it out." "Wait up! Hey, I said wait for me!" "Midoriya-kun, what's up?" Tsubasa and Inaba reach him first, since they were already halfway through the log, but Kachan is catching up. He looks irritated and stomps over to him, dripping wet. Before he can start yelling, Izuku says, "I think I heard a cat." A cat? Inaba raises a brow. It sounded like it was in trouble. Izuku points to the direction where the sound came from. I think it's coming from there. I want to check it out. Kachan scowls. Idiot! What the hell would a cat be doing here? Oh hey, there is something there, Tsubasa says. The four of them look over to see where he's pointing. A flash of silver peeks out in the distant shrubbery. Tsubasa and Inaba glance at Kachan, but Izuku's already making his way over. Kachan growls and trots after him. As they get closer, they realize that the flash of silver is really a wired fence. It looks old and is full of cobwebs, but that's nothing compared to what's on the other side. It's strange, seeing a place so barren and devoid of life in the middle of a blooming forest. The ground is dry and dusty, and there's only a few scraggly-looking trees. In the middle of the large yard is a rickety old shed, looking as if no one had been in it for years. What the hell is this place? Kachan frowns. Do you think anyone lives here? Inaba asks. I think I can see a house over in that shadowy area, but it looks old. It's kinda creepy, Tsubasa admits. As he says that, Izuku hears the same meow once more. It's a lot louder now, and it seems like it's coming from the shed. He perks up. Did you hear that? He asks excitedly. That was the cat. It's here. I didn't hear anything. Me neither. But it's here, he insists, pressing his face closer to the fence. I think it's coming from that shed. The other boys are silent, sharing dubious glances between them. Then Kachan scoffs and turns around. Whatever, this is lame. Let's keep exploring. Yeah, Inaba agrees, following him. What? Izuku asks, dismayed. His friends are already walking away. But we have to save it. Kachan is starting to get irritated again. There's no cat there, Zuku. Now come on. Tsubasa glances back to where he's still standing and gives him a pitying look. If someone does live there, then we could get in trouble for being on their property, he points out. Let's not cut our adventure short. Izuku watches them walk away, his anxiety growing with every step they take. He glances to and fro, wondering what to do. He's not crazy. He did hear a cat. He knows it's in that dirty old shed. He just knows it. Why didn't they hear it too? Why don't they believe him? The boy looks back at the strange yard and frowns. The shed doesn't look that far away, and he wouldn't be cutting their adventure short, not if he's fast. Just a few seconds in and out, that's all he needs. There's a weak spot on the side of the fence, too. He hesitates. The cat meows again, weaker this time, and his mind is made for him. Hey, Zuku, you coming or what? Kachan hears metal clanging and glances over his shoulder just in time to see Izuku slipping through a weak spot in the fence. Zuku! He shrieks, spinning around and running back. What the hell are you doing? Tsubasa and Inaba panic too and run after him. He slams into the fence and tries to force his way through the same spot Izuku got through, but he's bigger than the other boy, and it's not as easy for him to slip through. Zuku! Midoriya-kun, come back! Is he crazy? Meanwhile, Izuku is still dashing across the yard as fast as he can. He can hear his friends yelling behind him, but for once he doesn't care. He's almost halfway to the shed when a sudden volley of deep barks stops him in his tracks. He looks up to see a large dog charging across the yard towards him, snarling furiously. It must have been snoozing in the shadows of one of the trees because Izuku is certain he otherwise would have seen it. The dog is massive and is charging right at him, and it looks really mad, and oh God, what does he do? What does he do? He can hear his friends telling him to run, but he can't help it. He freezes in fear, staring with wide eyes at the snarling dog. Panic rises in his chest, and he finds his mind thinking back to the incident with the two upperclassmen. The horrible feeling of helplessness returning with a vengeance. What was he thinking? He's not like Kachan or Tsubasa or even Inaba. He can't defend himself. He can't even run away. What was he thinking, running in here like that? The dog is only a few feet away from him before he manages to react, and even then, he only has time to stumble back a couple of steps before the dog is upon him. Teeth flash before his eyes, and he screams. Suddenly, the dog lets out a yelp, just as two hands wrap around Izuku's arms and he's lifted into the air. Wings flap on either side of him, and he gasps, looking down to see Kachan aiming his explosions at the dog. He snarls even more ferociously than the mutt and keeps swiping at him, making the biggest explosions Izuku had ever seen him make. The dog flinches and whirls around, quickly running away with its tail between its legs. Kachan's explosions don't stop until the dog disappears back to where it came from, and only then does he relax. Tsubasa returns a shaky Izuku back to the ground, as Inaba catches up. "Midoriya-kun, are you okay?" he asks worriedly, putting a hand on Izuku's shoulder to steady him when he wobbles. "That dog almost got you!" Izuku struggles to catch his breath, as he trembles uncontrollably. The overwhelming relief has him feeling faint, as if he had just healed a bunch of people all at once, but he swallows hard and nods. I'm okay," he gasps. I just... His words are cut off when Kachan suddenly stomps over to him and gives him a hard smack on the back of his head. He yelps, more out of shock than pain, and stares at his friend with wide eyes. "Hey!" Tsubasa yells, but Kachan ignores him, his red, furious eyes locked on Izuku's. "What the fuck were you thinking?" he roars, grabbing the front of Izuku's shirt and pulling him close so he can snarl in his face. "What the hell is wrong with you? Do you have a fucking death wish? You listen to me, idiot. If I tell you not to go somewhere, don't go there. And if I tell you to run, you run. Never freeze like that, do you hear me?" He roughly shakes Izuku, who cries out and nods rapidly. "What if that dog had gotten to you before I did? You can't even throw a fucking punch. You would have died, Izuku, and I..." The blonde cuts himself off, struggling to find his words as he seethes. You fucking... Ugh, fuck you!" Before Izuku knows it, Kachan has his arms wrapped tightly around him and is growling obscenities into his hair. Stupid fucking idiot. Moron, you little fucking... Izuku blinks in surprise, the fear dying down a bit. Kachan is hardly ever the one to initiate hugs. It's a bit uncomfortable. He's squeezing a bit too hard, and Izuku's chin is trapped against his shoulder. But he can feel just how fast his friend's heart is beating against his chest. His eyes widen slightly. Oh, he scared him. He scared Kachan. He almost doesn't believe it at first. He never thought Kachan could be afraid of anything. But the evidence is here. In the heartbeat he can feel thumping against his chest, and the arms wrapped tightly around him as if they'll never let go. Izuku nearly cried after the dog almost attacked him, but now his eyes are watering for an entirely different reason. "Kachan," he croaks, his voice muffled against the boy's shoulder. I'm sorry." "Hey, guys," Tsubasa interrupts nervously. "If there's a dog here, then that probably means there's people too. We should go." Kachan pulls away and wipes his nose with a sniffle. But before he can say anything, a high and very audible meow reaches their ears. Izuku freezes. He'd completely forgotten about the cat. Inaba perks up. "Oh, I heard that." "Me too," Tsubasa says a bit uneasily. His eyes glance towards the house in the distance. Kachan meets Izuku's gaze, and he must have a pleading look on his face because the blonde grits his teeth before letting out a huff. "Well, we've already come this fucking far," he bites out. Then he fixes Izuku with a hard glare and leans close. "But you better fucking listen to me this time. I'm going first, and you're gonna stay behind me." Izuku swallows, but he's not going to argue with Kachan when he has an expression like that on his face, so he simply nods. Kachan turns and leads the way as the four boys hurry the rest of the way to the shed. The blonde cautiously opens the door before peeking his head inside. Izuku and the others wait with bated breath, watching him anxiously, but then he steps inside and waves for them to follow. Tsubasa goes first, and Inaba brings up the rear, keeping Izuku between them. The inside of the shed is even more ragged and dirty than the outside. A heavy layer of dust covers everything and lingers in the air, causing Tsubasa to sneeze. "Well," Kachan asks, "where's the cat?" "I don't know." Izuku frowns, glancing around, then begins calling out. "Kitty! Kitty, where are you?" "Idiot, it's not going to come just because you..." A meow sounds in the distance, almost questioningly. "Of course," Inaba snickers at Kachan's deadpan expression, but the explosive boy just shoulders him roughly before moving towards the source of the noise. Izuku follows at his heels and peeks over his shoulder when he stops in front of a dusty, broken table. Kachan squats down, and Izuku does the same, his eyes landing on a lump of fur leaning against the wall. He gasps, but it turns into a coughing fit when the dust air hits his lungs. Kachan rolls his eyes at him as the other two boys join them. "It's a kitten," Kachan says. "I think." "Are you sure?" Inaba asks, skeptically. "It kinda just looks like a giant furry—" The lump of fur lets out a loud meow. "Oh, nope, never mind, that's a cat." Kachan snickers, and Tsubasa puts a hand on Izuku's shoulder. "Hey, you were right, Midoriya-kun. Good job." "Don't encourage him," Kachan snaps. "It was still the stupidest thing he's ever done." Once his coughing is under control, Izuku starts crawling underneath the table. As he gets closer, two pale yellow eyes appear from the mass of fur and stare at him. Even though the kitten is very small, Izuku still finds himself intimidated by that gaze. "Be careful, Midoriya-kun," Inaba says. "It might be mean." Izuku cautiously reaches out with a hand to let the kitten sniff him. It does, and the boy smiles when its whiskers tickle his fingers. He gets the feeling that the kitten isn't too impressed with him, but he takes the chance and gently touches its belly, brushing aside its long fur. He immediately gasps. "He's hurt," Izuku says, then frowns down at the wound. "It looks like it got bitten by something." Inaba tilts his head. "Hey, maybe it's that dog? Maybe it chased the cat into here and trapped it." "Maybe, but let's hurry up," Kachan says. "I don't want to risk getting caught by whoever owns that dog." Izuku nods and turns back to the kitten, pressing his fingers to its skin and letting his energy flow. The dog bite is the most serious wound he's ever healed, but it isn't very big since it's on a cat, so it doesn't take too much energy to heal. The kitten relaxes beneath his fingers and blinks up at him, letting out a curious meow. "Come on out, little kitten," he coos. "Don't worry, we're nice. We're gonna take you somewhere safe." The kitten continues to stare at him, not making any move to get up. Thankfully, he doesn't make much of a fuss when Izuku just picks him up, tucking him into his arms as he clambers out from underneath the table. "Oh my gosh," he whispers. "He's so cute." "It's dirty." Kachan wrinkles his nose. "Well, yeah, 'cause he's been living here for who knows how long," Izuku says, readjusting his grip. "Let's get him out of here." The four turn to leave, but freeze when they hear paw steps right outside the shed. The dog is back, snuffling at the door and bumping it with its head. Izuku tenses up, but Kachan strides forward and yanks the door open, snarling as he lets out a bunch of explosions. The dog immediately yelps and runs away again, and Kachan puffs up his chest, looking smug. "Come on, then." They make sure the coast is clear before running back over to the fence. Turns out Kachan had blown a bigger hole in it in order to get through, so they slip through it easily and make their way back to familiar territory. They stop by the river to wash some of the dirt off the kitten, and to their surprise, he actually seems to appreciate it. "Heh, he is kinda cute, I guess," Inaba admits, scratching behind the kitten's ear gently. The feline sneezes on him in return. "He's adorable," Izuku squeals. "I want to keep him." Kachan rolls his eyes. Izuku uses his shirt to dry off the kitten, and now that he's clean, the boy can see that his fur is a mottled mix of blacks and grays, with more of the latter covering his neck and chest. His paws are pretty big, too, which makes Izuku wonder what breed he is. They continue trekking through the forest, the kitten sitting comfortably in Izuku's arms, and by the time they reach their neighborhood, the sun is starting to set. Inko must be wondering where he is, so he and Kachan bid goodbye to Tsubasa and Inaba before heading over to his place. The soft scraping of their feet against the sidewalk is the only sound that fills the air, as they walk beside each other. Izuku casts a sideways glance at Kachan. The blonde's hands are shoved deep in his pockets, jaw set and shoulders hunched as he glowers at the sidewalk beneath his feet. Somehow Izuku can tell that the scowl on his face right now is different than his normal one. "Hey, Kachan." Kachan grunts. Maybe let's not tell Mom about the thing with the dog, Izuku suggests sheepishly. Kachan lifts his head, only to glare at him silently for a moment. Then he grumbles. Only 'cause I'm too tired to deal with her freaking out right now. Izuku lets out a sigh of relief, but his friend's not done. But don't you ever do something that stupid ever again, he snaps. I won't, Izuku promises. I mean it, Kachan warns. That you... He lets out a frustrated growl and practically spits out. You fucking scared the shit out of me back there, dumbass. I don't know if you realize, but you might as well be quirkless when it comes to fighting, so you leave that shit to me, all right? He huffs and turns away sharply, as if to end the conversation. But something stops Izuku from letting him do so. A flicker of irritation and frustration blooms in his chest, and he can't help himself from snapping. I'm not helpless! His voice is loud, surprising both him and Kachan, who stops and turns to face him. Izuku clenches his jaw and readjusts his hold on the kitten. I'm not helpless, he repeats, quieter this time. I hate that feeling. I don't want to be helpless, but back with Furuya-san and Akamine-san. His eyes prick, and he squeezes them shut as Kachan stares at him. They were just so much stronger than me, and they kept grabbing me, and I hated it, and I hated that I couldn't do anything to stop it, and now this thing with the dog? The kitten in his arms shifts and rubs his face against Izuku's chest as he clearly becomes more and more distressed. He struggles to find his words. I just always thought I'd get a quirk like Mom or Dad's, you know? Something I could become a hero with, something I could be strong with. And what I have now is great, but... He sniffles and rubs his eyes on his sleeve, although there's no point in trying to stop the tears from flowing. Head drooping, he mumbles miserably. Kachan, I love my quirk, but I just wish it wasn't so useless. His tears drip into the kitten's fur as he sniffles pitifully. Kachan is silent for a moment, then... That's fucking bullshit, Zuku! He looks up in surprise, his vision blurry from tears. Huh? He croaks. Kachan's jaw clenches and his nostrils flare as he huffs. I said that's fucking bullshit, he snaps. Your quirk isn't fucking useless and you know it. It's fucking cool, alright? And rare as shit. You healed a dog bite in like 2 seconds. Yeah, it might be kind of useless in a fight, but that's where you've got me. I'll gladly kick anyone's ass for you, just name 'em. Izuku chuckles wetly and wipes his eyes on his sleeve. That's probably the nicest thing Kachan has ever said about his quirk, even though he sounded pissed off the entire time. He smiles sadly at his friend and says, I know I can rely on you, Kachan. Of course I know that. I just wish I could rely on myself too, you know? I mean, don't tell me it doesn't get annoying following me around all the time. Well, too fucking bad, 'cause I'm telling you that, Kachan growls. Trust me, I'd rather hang out with you than those damn extras that keep tagging along with us. Kachan, he scolds lightly. Kachan snorts and gives him a contemplative look. Sniffing, he glances away and feigns nonchalance. As for relying on yourself, well, I suppose I can show you some moves. Izuku frowns. Moves? Yeah, you know. The blonde gestures vaguely with his hand. Teach you how to fight. I don't want my future healer to be completely useless in a battle. He arches a brow and gives him a sharp look. Not that you will be fighting, but just in case. Izuku stares at him for a few seconds as the words process, then tilts his head. Kachan, do you even know how to fight? Kachan glares. I mean, like, without your quirk, Izuku stammers. Professionally, you know. Who cares if it's professional? What only matters is that it works, Kachan snorts. So it's decided. Izuku blinks. Huh? We'll start tomorrow after school. Huh? Without another word, Kachan turns around and continues walking down the street. Come on, Zu. I can't wait to see Auntie's face when you bring home that flea bag. Izuku glances down at the kitten, who's gazing after Kachan rather judgmentally. He sighs and follows, wondering just what he got himself into. As he leads the way back toward Zuku's house, Katsuki hears his friend continue walking behind him. There is a brief shifting of fabric, and then a soft coo. He doesn't need to glance over his shoulder to know that Zuku must be fawning over that ugly-ass cat. That ugly-ass cat that he almost got his fucking face ripped off for. Katsuki's fists curl. His mind replays the encounter with the dog over and over again. The irritation and anger he'd felt when he'd seen Zuku slip through the fence, even though he told him not to. How in a split second it morphed into cold, heart-stopping fear as soon as he'd heard the volley of barks, as soon as he had seen the massive dog charging towards his best friend, his healer, his Zuku. He'd never felt fear like that before. It was such pure, utter terror in its most unadulterated form. Terror because what if he didn't make it in time? What if he wasn't fast enough? What if he wasn't strong enough? Zuku was going to get hurt. Zuku was going to get killed. Like a horse kicked with a spiked heel, the fear had spurred him into action, giving him the strength and speed he needed to cross that field in a matter of seconds. The icy daggers in his heart melted into a burning fury that he'd aimed at the mutt for daring to attack what's his. Then at Zuku, for being naive enough to do something so infuriatingly moronic in the first place, and now he aims it at himself, glaring at the ground as he quietly seethes. That was by far the stupidest thing Zuku has ever done, but Zuku is stupid and soft, and Katsuki knows this because he knows everything about Zuku, and he should have known he would have gone after that fucking cat. He loves animals, and he hardly ever says no to healing people, and Katsuki was an absolute idiot for thinking his friend would ever just forget about an animal being potentially hurt, just because Katsuki told him to. Although, the thought of Zuku ignoring his orders, of not listening to him and nearly getting himself killed for it, leaves a bitter taste in the back of his throat. He grits his teeth. That was way too close, and Zuku is right, of course, even though Katsuki reassured him. His quirk really is fucking useless when it comes to fighting, there's no denying that. So of course he can't have a healer that can't fight, that's an easy fix. He can teach him. But he also can't have a healer that won't listen to him. That might prove to be a bit more difficult, depending on just how stupid Zuku is insisting on being. But maybe this incident will scare him straight, and he'll think twice before disobeying Katsuki again. "Aren't you the cutest little thing?" Zuku coos in a sickeningly sweet voice behind him. "Huh? Aren't you?" Irritation claws at his heart, and his scowl deepens. But of course it won't be that easy, because Zuku is timid and gentle and cries easily and so unlike Katsuki in so many ways. But that's all right, because where Zuku is weak, Katsuki will be strong. He can be more than strong enough for the both of them. Remnants of the fear still lingers in his chest, however, like the stubborn stench of smoke that refuses to leave the air even after the raging wildfire has long gone. His mind, unwittingly, flashes back to the incident. Clanking metal, quick footsteps, vicious snarls, Zuku's scream, and his hands twitch, sparks threatening to pop. His chest feels tight, and he lets out a breath he didn't know he was holding. It comes out shaky. That causes him to become even more angry with himself. Why the hell is he shaken? It was just a stupid dog, and he beat it anyways. What's he so scared about? He did his damn job, and he did it well. He protected Zuku from the dog, just like he protected him from those two upperclassmen assholes, because he's the strongest. The mutt didn't even touch him. He blames it on the fact it was a close call, and that a dog is much more dangerous than two elementary school bullies. Even if he did teach him how to fight, Zuku couldn't have done anything against that thing, not without a combative quirk. He really is so weak. Which means that Katsuki needs to be better, stronger. He can't make a mistake like that again. Zuku hates feeling helpless. Fine. Katsuki can help him gain a little self-confidence. And in the meantime, Katsuki will continue to work to become even stronger, faster, better, to protect him from any form of danger that comes their way. "Kachan?" Zuku's voice cuts through his thoughts, and he abruptly stops. The freckled boy is standing in the middle of the walkway up to his house, gazing at him in confusion. Katsuki had been so lost in his own mind that he had unknowingly started to walk past his house. Zuku tilts his head. "Aren't you coming?" Katsuki's eyes drop down to the kitten in his arms, Snapping jaws flash in his mind, and his heart gives a little jolt. He clenches his fists. And fear. Of fucking course I'm coming, he snaps, marching towards Zuku and roughly shouldering past him. Fear can go fuck itself. All right, listeners, this concludes Chapter 2 of The Roundabout Way of Fate. Chapter 3 will be up next. I hope you all are enjoying this one still. Let me know those thoughts and reactions. Drop them in the comments below. And as always, thank you all so much for listening.